Hello guys, and welcome to this Make segment. I'm your host, Zachary Anderson, and today we're going to be taking a look at the musical stylings of Ariana Grande. In particular, we're going to be analyzing the specific harmonics that are in some of her melodies in the new song, Rain on Me. So I hope you guys are excited, but before we jump right into that, why don't we go ahead and let's play this song for you. My phone's dead. So guys, we're gonna learn about the MP3 player. So we're gonna be designing an MP3 player today and learning about the engineering design process, okay? So that involves identifying and defining a problem, brainstorming and doing some research, and then finally building a model and building a prototype so that we can actually listen to the sweet, sweet sound of Ariana Grande. I hope you guys are ready. I'm Zachary, and let's jump right into it. So there are multiple stages to the design process, which is the first thing we'll be talking about. And the first stage is to identify the problem. So I'm first going to identify and define what my problem is. And that being that I can't listen to Ariana Grande. I want a new device that is independent of my phone that I can use to listen to music. So that's what we're going to be looking to do, is actually develop a new device that we can use to listen to music solely. So next up, we have to do something which is known as research. So we have to research possible solutions or provide more context to the actual problem. So I'm going to take a look at possible alternatives that I could use to listen to Ariana Grande. One could be the computer, one could maybe be an iPod or something like this. But again, I want a completely separate device that I know the battery or the power will be dedicated just for listening to music and not for a variety of other things that I do throughout the day. So once we have done our research, then we can go ahead and start brainstorming some possible solutions. Then, once we've brainstormed some, then we can take a look at actually building our prototype. So I already have an idea in mind. I'm planning to build an MP3 player, and I'm going to be using a couple of standard components in this MP3 player. So why don't we go ahead, we're going to jump to the next phase, which is actually building the prototype. Once we've built the prototype, we can use that prototype and test it, see if it's gonna work. We can give it to the end user and see how it's doing. And then of course, we're gonna do iterative design, right? So we're gonna be looking at feedback and constantly updating this until it's at a point that is good, that is usable, right? So that'll be our final step, is this iterative design, testing, and feedback. So this is what our design process will look like. Next, we're gonna jump into the system visual. Okay, so we now know about the design process. Why don't we go ahead and we're going to build a system visual as we would in sort of this prototyping phase. So we've already defined our problem, we've done our research, we've brainstormed our solution, and now we're on the prototyping phase. And I'm gonna start to draw out a system visual for this prototype. So first things first, we need to listen. So I'm gonna have over here a speaker. Next up, I'm gonna need something to control this thing. And so I'm going to need a microcontroller. I also need something to interface between the controller and the speaker, and that's going to be my driver. I also need to interact with some sort of human being, which means I'm going to need some sort of interface, and so those are going to be some push buttons. And finally, I'm going to need some sort of power source. We're almost done. I actually missed one thing, which is we're gonna need the actual memory of the song. And so we're gonna add a memory into this system visual. But there we go, then we've got all our parts. So we've got our power source, our controller, memory, our push buttons, and then our driver and our speaker. So this is a crude example of a system visual. And next we're gonna take a look at what each component actually looks like. So guys, we're back at the table now, and luckily enough, I have procured each of the elements that we had on our system visual. Now, we can take a look at each component and talk a little bit more about the function that they're supposed to provide. So here are my 5 essential elements. So let's take a look at the first one, which is our transducer. So the transducer will convert electrical energy into mechanical energy. And this is how we're gonna generate the sound waves to listen to Ariana Grande's Rain on Me. So if you hold it up to your ear, of course you're gonna be able to hear this. And this is intuitive for all of us. But this is our speaker. Next up, we have our USB. So our USB drive is actually what we're going to be saving these songs onto, right? We need to have them in some sort of storage. And this is a solid state storage. So we're gonna be saving it in binary, 1s and 0s. And that binary is gonna have to be decoded into a format that we can actually drive through the speaker, right? So this is our storage device, our USB. Next up we have our microcontroller. Yes, this is the microcontroller. Now, I love these things. This is an Arduino microcontroller, and I use them for a variety of my projects here at ZenMakerLab. But this is great because we can use this to control our human interface, okay? We're using it to control the human interface, and we're also using it to tell our DFP mini player, which we'll see shortly, when to start playing the music, when to stop. So this is sort of our management, okay? Our controller for the entire project. It's also our power supply. Remember that we can't just create energy from nothing, right? Otherwise we'd be billionaires if you figure that out. So for the rest of us, we have to have some sort of power source. And that power source is actually right here. So we're gonna be plugging it in with a cable right here, and then there's a little voltage regulator on the bottom that will be regulating the actual amount of power that we are transferring. Next up we have tactile switches. So these are tactile switches, also known as push buttons, but if you look them up on Mouser or DigiKey, they're not gonna call them push buttons, they're gonna call them tactile switches. And they make this clicking sound if you go ahead and click on them. And every time I push down and you hear that click, I'm actually connecting 2 pins on this side to the 2 pins on this side. So these 2 pins, these 2 here, maybe I'll hold that up here. So these 2 pins here are actually connected together. And if I turn it around, these 2 pins here are connected together. And when I push the button, it's gonna connect these 2 across to these 2. And this is one way that we can signal to the Arduino when we want it to perform an action. Like say, turn the volume up, turn it down, go to the next song, pause our song, whatever we like. So that is our human interface. And next up, we have our DFP mini player. So for our speaker to actually drive the speaker, to actually send current in and produce that mechanical energy, we need a driver. We need some sort of device that can handle and decode the binary that is on our USB into some electrical signals that will properly drive our speaker and produce sound. So that's what this guy does. And we control this guy with our Arduino. So that is the purpose of our DFP mini player. So we're gonna be plugging this into our board to actually drive our speaker. So that covers the 5 most essential components in our system visual. But of course we have some peripheral components here. So these are our other components, and I'll be talking more about these components in the next video. All right, make challenge time. So I want you to go out into your community, family, friends, family pet, whatever it is. I want you to define and identify a problem. I want you to brainstorm some solutions, and I want a physical solution that you can then draw a system visual for. And that's what I'm looking for. So that's your challenge today. I want you to draw out a system visual and block diagram for whatever that solution is, and you can follow us at ZenMakerLab, #DesignMakePlay. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We got to learn a lot about the design process and how to build and draw a system visual. So if you like this, I hope that you tune in for our next Make segment, where we'll be continuing this project by actually putting everything together. So I'm excited to see you guys there. Bye for now.